Undercurrents. This is the Ordinary People podcast. And today, Marius is joining me, who apparently used to live in Witbank. So that's already something that is unique. Not many people I know live in Witbank. But Marius has a few solutions for us, and he's happy to discuss them right here. Marius, hello. Welcome to the show.
Roman, thank you very much. Yeah, excited to be here. I'm looking forward to it. Throwing some
The
ideas
pleasure is,
around.
yeah, no, the pleasure is indeed all mine. So before we spoke, you said something to the effect that there's many podcasts out there that focus on the problems, which I agree. Many people focus on the problems. Um, but you are very interested in finding solutions rather than complaining about the problems.
Yeah, well, I think if you have a couple of guys in a room and throwing some ideas around, you might throw 10 or 20 around. Maybe one stick, maybe it doesn't, and maybe we come up with a solution and nobody wants to use it. And like you've said before the podcast, the solutions sounds obvious to implement, but it's not being implemented. And maybe that's part of the discussion that needs to be identified is why is it not being implemented? Are we not looking at it a bit narrow-minded? Is there ways to look at it and get it to be implemented? I read yesterday that ANC is now reconsidering BEE. I don't know what that means, but after the DA's suggestion that they should revamp BEE, now apparently the ANC is looking at it. Maybe we can give them one or two suggestions on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely, but I mean, suggestions have been put forward for 30 years, and the powers that be and the GNU specifically don't really seem to care about solutions at all. So, I mean, the handbrake on any solution is actually the political leaders of the country, in essence.
Well, they're the handbrake and the problem.
Correct.
Yeah, I think, let's jump into the BEE while we're talking about that. I had a look at the DA's suggestion on new BEE, which you can jump in to tell me if my interpretation was wrong in it. But it boils down to actually focusing on economic empowerment. So depending on your economic levels, that should be rewarded, and trying to move away from race. I think I understand their logic, and of course it makes sense, and theoretically there's nothing wrong with it. But I think practically it can't work in South Africa. The ANC will never go for it because race plays such a big role. So we need to figure out a way to do a BEE where race will still play a role, but we get the country to actually move and have this handbrake loosened. So one of the suggestions that, just because we like talking about these things and is the following, is let's keep BE, but we change it a little bit, and that it is not a requirement to trade. So anybody can trade with the state. You do not need a BE certificate to trade with the state. It ties up with what has been actually suggested in the media previously, is have a tax. So if your BE level is a good level, maybe you pay 26-27% income tax. And if you don't have a good BE, then maybe you pay 30 or 32%. So there's an incentive to become BE, but it does not prevent you from trading with state-owned companies, corporates, and or exclusion from the economy. The IRR had a study saying that just the BE premiums, it's a really ridiculous amount. If you remove that, you can drop VAT to 11.5%. So let's say, for argument's sake, we remove BE from trade barriers. It means that theoretically VAT can drop to 11.5. That in itself will kickstart a lot of the economy. And so what I would propose is that South Africa used the two state-owned entities, or not state-owned entities, the two industries that work, two of them. The one is SARS. SARS work. We don't like them,
Hmm.
but they work very efficiently. Um, and during Zuma, they might have had a bit of a bump, but subsequently they picking up the slack, and SARS actually is very good. So SARS could very easily manage the increased tax for lesser BE companies. And if you're a very well-rated BE company, that's less tax. That's not very difficult for them. And then they can also allocate the additional taxes, let's call it the BE tax, and ring fence that into a fund with Treasury. Very similar to what this transformation fund is, what the ANC proposed. I think they're doing it in a horrible way. But you could have a transformation fund with those taxes. But I think the secret sauce to this BE thing is to say, let's use the industry that really works in South Africa, which is the financial industry. The banks are very good in South Africa and well regulated, and there's guys that they know how to run it.
Yeah.
You could very easily take that transformation fund and make it available to the banks, not on it is a forced fund to the banks, saying that you must take this money from us, and we'll give it to you at less than repo, because I'm now giving you ring fenced funds, but you must on lend this money to certain industries based on BE criteria. So what will happen is you'll have Nedbank being told, here's a couple of billion for you. We generated that through the taxes. And these couple of billion, those are all ring fenced, and you must make it available to BE companies in the tourism industry, agriculture, whatever the government wants to focus on. What will happen to the bank? The bank wants the money out, otherwise they lose money. The bank only works if they lend money out, otherwise they pay interest and
Correct.
not earning. So they will
Yeah.
move the money out. But they will move it out, not to the cadres and the politicians and the guys that's stuffing up the country. They will need to find the proper black entrepreneurs and the proper, you know, the guys that can run a business. Because at the end of the day, they actually want the money back. So it's a proper loan.
Sure.
It is just the terms are quite good, and you can only qualify if you're a BE. But what will happen is, because it's a proper economic transaction, that company receiving cheaper funding would benefit from it, create jobs, it would help the economy, but it would also pay back its loan. Now Nedbank or Absa is receiving not only the money from the transformation fund, it is also receiving the repayments of that, which then can go back into the transformation fund. What will end up happening is you would have a sovereign fund in 5 years or 10 years' time, helping to build it. So you do have the benefit of BE that, yes, that's race-based, and of course they are benefiting, but the people that are benefiting would be the people that is keen to build the economy. It's the people that is not just buying Ferraris and,
Yeah.
how
I
many
mean,
freaking
that's the thing,
Lamborghinis was
Mario.
there at that place?
Like my preferred method of um, changing the country involves helicopters and lampposts, which we won't discuss here. It's not a political solution, so to speak. But if we can just do what the Afrikaners did during apartheid to Afrikaners, it's not hard, right? State-owned enterprises hire the working class, right? Pay them a decent wage, allow them to send their kids to university for a reduced rate. They get subsidies, etc., etc. And also, all the Afrikaans banks had relatively cheap loans to give out to agriculture and to Afrikaans businesses and all the rest of it. If that's how BE was started 30 years ago, based on your model, absolutely, like, yes, like, of course. But I think what we failed to see as citizens is that A, BE was created by corporates to entrench their own power, and B, it was bastardized by the ANC to entrench their own power. It's not a empowerment policy and never has been. So the
Fair enough.
fundamental
No, absolutely.
foundation of the argument is that this was never meant to be empowerment at all. It's empowerment to 1,000 people. That's it. Your model, of course, is empowerment to real people, which I agree with. Like, I don't like the fact that it's on race, but I understand that maybe for 30 years after 94, it should have been based on race, but there should have been a sunset clause to all of these things.
No, fair
So,
enough.
I mean, those are my
But
thoughts.
we can hammer that point until, I mean, it will never change. The fact is, the cards we are dealt with in South Africa includes race. And the DA can jump up and down, and we can jump up and down and say it's been 30 years, let's leave it, let's leave it. The ANC will be incapable of supporting a change in BEE if there's not race into it. So we need to work out a solution that would say, okay, fine, let's accept that we would always have some sort of race card in there. But let's do it in such a way that it reduces corruption. Because the corruption relates back to barriers of trade where you cannot trade with them if you're not BE empowered, and then it just opens it up for corruption. So if you remove that, you say, okay, all into it, and the flow of economic of transactions flow through the banks, it would widen that net, and it would then create economic empowerment, but also economic growth. And so the thing is, we can keep on saying, this doesn't work, you must stop it. It doesn't work, you must stop it. But the ANC will not stop it. And to get this voted in, you actually need to go to the DA actually should go to the ANC and say, look, here we've got a solution. You keep telling us we can't let go of race. Fine, here's a solution. We don't let go of race. You want the transformation fund? Fine, here's a transformation fund. But we also need to help the man on the street. How do we do that? Well, if the barriers of trade are all gone, and in the IRR's calculations would be correct, VAT drops to 11.5%. If it just drops to 13%, already you've got 60 billion rand into the economy. So it's not that I disagree with the fact that I think BEE should not be there at all. I'm Afrikaans and white. I don't actually think it. I was a light theatre part. I can't really remember anything, but I'm fine. This is what we have. So it's a card we've been dealt. Let's keep it and go and say, how can we better the system so that it actually starts? Because at the end of the day, we need jobs. There needs to be growth, and that would relate back to jobs. And this is just one way of doing it.
Yeah. So, for example, Starlink signed a BE deal where it says like it's going to upskill people and give free Starlinks to everyone in the military, or I don't know, whatever. Like, I think that model, and which they relaxed on purpose for Starlink, and I think they're going to relax generally for all foreign investment, is such a better model to think of than we want 30% for BE of your company. Like, that extraction, the expropriation of 30% is the most stupid idea that has ever come up, and there's many stupid ideas. But if you say, listen, we're a sovereign country, our goals are to uplift the black majority, which is a goal that I share, right? As a South African, a white South African,
we need it.
I want nothing more than everyone else to be as happy as I am, right? Because then my future is secured in this country. If people are poor and destitute, it's a fuck up for my future. I'm very selfish about this, right? And I think most people are. It's far better for everyone to be upwardly mobile, because then it secures my future and my children's future, because then people will be less, less propensity for
the cake needs to get bigger.
But I mean, and it's so easy to do. So I like your model. It won't work because it makes too much sense. It won't work because it's actually really empowerment.
That's not what I want to hear.
It won't work because it's real empowerment as opposed to crony capitalism of the highest order. But if I was a South African president, I would tell people around the world, this is my country. We're sovereign. Our people of all races needs XYZ. There's a lag in the black population due to the past. We've tried to fix it. It hasn't happened. So what we're going to do now is that if you want to come to invest, you're going to help me progress with the wealth creation of the black majority of my country. Come with your proposals, but just know that if you want to invest in my country, the biggest, largest, most sophisticated economy in Africa, there's going to be some cost to it, but not to the detriment of your return. And your model fits into that
And
quite well.
well, actually, for the international guys coming in, my model on the BEE, I think they should be completely excluded from. I would go to Starlink and say, look, guys, Elon, you want to be here? We need jobs. At the end of the day, that's what we need. So let's make the following deal. I'm going to tax you at 45% income tax. But for every 10,000 jobs that you create, I will drop that tax by 5%, 3%, whatever the number is. So that imagine he comes in and he creates 200,000 jobs. I don't care if he pays tax then. He's created 200,000 jobs. Those people will pay tax, but they'll also buy houses and they'll support the shop. And then now you have got more mechanics. It's just more, so for the international guys, I would actually drop. Yes, now they're helping these guys with devices and they're helping. But at the end of the day, for them, they buy the device, they give it to somebody, and they walk away. Actually, what you want to do is, if you create the job, your income tax rate drops. If you don't create jobs, well, then I would want some money, and then maybe I can go to the transformation fund and all of that. But they can make it very simple.
It does depend on the foreign direct investment. Like if it's mining, yes, I think your model will work in mining. But for Starlink is not something that creates jobs. It's an unlocking of potential. Right? If every single South African has access to high-speed internet, the potential for growth and for skills development and for education is 1,000x than if Starlink wasn't here. So actually, I would say Starlink coming for free. You don't have to pay anything. But it depends.
Well, maybe for Starlink, you say if you create a little bit of jobs and you give the stuff, yes. But it's just the whole view. If you can, at the end of the day, sort of ask how many jobs can be created, and then you view it through that, I think you'll change it quite quickly. But that was the BE one. It could be. It's not even difficult to implement. You can write one or two laws. I guess the most important two laws would be the tax regime, which we need to change. And the second one is with the Reserve Bank on the flow of money to the banks. But the banks can handle that. They are very sophisticated.
Yeah.
So it could be implemented very quickly. And you drop all the BE requirements for trade and let everybody tender for freaking brooms at Eskom, so you don't pay bloody $200 a broom or something.
Yeah, I mean that's a separate issue. I would actually just insource all of that to the SOEs. I mean they got enough people. Let one person actually just order brooms from Macro or something. Like really, you don't need 10,000 brooms at Eskom.
No.
All right, so you'll be E1. Ironically, 10 years ago, I would say you're completely mad and you're part of the herd. But now I'm more enlightened and I'm more mature, and I think it's actually a better system. But it needs a sunset clause. It needs to end in 20 years or 30 years or whatever the case might be. But other than that, I think we agree broadly on the principles. So that's BEE sorted. What other issues do you talk to your friends about around the braai in which you have the solution?
The other one actually falls under the department you worked in, agriculture. Were you not there?
Where to start, Marius? Where to start?
So, maybe it's quite personal for you, maybe not, but it's actually, and it just provides a way of how simple it could be to get the economy going.
Yeah.
Is a suggestion on, and it may be a bit not technical, but there's as part of the agriculture, the legislation, there's a possibility, there's a opportunity for subdivision of farmland. So to subdivide farmland, essentially you need the permission from the minister,
Correct.
which was your previous boss.
Yes.
So I'll leave it there. But John only needs to say, okay, fine, we're happy, you can subdivide. So that, of course, might or might not become quite a problem if it's just everybody's doing it. Because you need food security, and there's lots of reasons why you would not want to do it. That I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at a farm, or let's say 5,000 hectares, that commercial farmer will have land that they cannot utilize. You cannot farm on 100% of what you own. It's just, it doesn't work like that. So they do have areas that it's got, actually it's got no value to them. They cannot farm it, whatever is the reason. So the proposal would be as follows, is John invites is probably the right word, and saying, okay, if you comply with these couple of criteria, I will approve your subdivision. So example, maybe you can subdivide 20 hectares for every 500 hectares of farm you have, on the condition that whatever you are subdividing is not currently being used for agriculture. And then what would happen is that 20 hectares, I will provide you a density of, 5 houses per hectare, 2 houses per hectare, whatever. But it means if it's 2 houses per hectare and it's 20 hectares, you can do 40 houses or 40 earths, 40 stands. Yes. But because you can subdivide it, that becomes a full title unit. It means you could sell it. So one of the criteria would be, okay, we must not burden the municipalities with services on some stand that is freaking 50 kilometers from the closest town. They can't even provide services in the freaking town, so that will never work. So one of the conditions is no services must be provided. But what would happen then? The farmer would look at his piece of land and go, okay, well, you know what? I've got this nice area. It's a bit of a copy with a ravine running through it. I can definitely do 20 hectares there, break it up into 40 stands, and I can sell those as full title units, as a security little complex in a very nice area. So it becomes a sort of a farm village holiday accommodation for guys that's living in the city. So now you can drive to Tsanin or Oorigstad, and you would have this housing development there that you can now buy into, and you can sell, and you can finance, because the banks will bond it because it's full title. But what would happen then for the farmer? The farmer would generate capital on land that was actually dead.
Or he can donate it to his farm workers, right? To build their own housing. Because then you sort out tenants' rights, you sort out farm workers' rights.
Well, you could, of course, do that. But what would happen if you sell the stands, or you build the houses and you sell the houses? The farm workers, and not to say they shouldn't have good housing, I'm not saying that, but if you have a really nice farm and you create a little village in the Karoo where people would like to go, close to Beaufort West or whatever, that farmer would get a couple of things in this development. Firstly, it unlocks a lot of capital. So that capital, because he's selling the stands, is either paying off debt, buying new equipment, buying a bigger farm, getting technology. So it helps the farmer being more sustainable. Because you have people that would now buy a house, they would pay a levy. It would be a small little homeowners, because somebody needs to manage the services. The farmer would be part of a system where there's monthly income coming in to provide, for example, security services. So all of a sudden, security for the farmers would increase because you have a little village that would help. So out of an employment point of view, if you have 40 houses there, you have people cleaning the houses, cutting the grass, building the houses.
Yeah.
In
Securing
rural
it.
areas where there's not a lot, and because you're building houses in rural areas on land that is completely worthless, you actually, where are you getting your bricks and your tiles and all of those things? It's in the local rural towns that's in the area. So the
Correct.
economy would start kickstarting it. And now, from a municipality point of view, because you're not providing any services, you don't actually have a cost to those. So you don't bill them the services. That's the homeowners. They must sort out their own services, solar and
Grid.
to do their own things.
Or,
But was that?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's very easy to have a borehole, solar. I mean, all these things are so cheap right now, cheaper than ever.
There you go.
Makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. We don't need municipalities, I would suggest, for the most part.
But you will fall under a municipality because of Spluma. You will have a municipality under which you will fall, even if you're 50 k's from that town. But it means that you've got building plans that's going in, there's some control, insurance will be easier. But because of that, you also pay your taxes to that municipality, which is normal property taxes, which you will pay for any house. But the municipality now would all of a sudden get, let's say there's 40 houses and there's a 1,000 rand per house. It's 40,000 rand a month that they are getting, that they have they don't have any expenses to. It's just money coming in. That's $500,000 rand a year. They're basically stealing it. But it's $500,000 rand a year coming in.
Yeah.
And all of that can happen if the minister just goes and say, okay, guys, this sounds like a good plan. Let's see if this could create economic activity. It can create some jobs. It creates security for the farmers. It's a nice capital injection for the farmers. All they need to do is say, okay, these are the criteria. If you comply with this, I'll give you the permission to subdivide. So it costs the government nothing.
No, it costs a signature.
It costs the signature.
That's why.
Maybe John's signature is quite expensive.
Not really. Trust me.
Well, I'll trust you. I don't know him.
It's going to become expensive quite soon once the court case gets going. But anyway, yes, again, I think let's just start at the beginning, Marius. Just to explain to people about subdivision of agricultural land. I think it's well known, and what that actually means for farmers generally. So I think you got the solution, but I think we've enunciated the problem accurately.
Sorry, yeah. So farmland would be zoned farmland. And the problem with being zoned farmland, you have got one piece of land and you cannot sell pieces of it. You need to do a township establishment, meaning that you need to establish a township on it to create the stands to transfer that off. Mm-hmm. But because this farmer actually don't want to establish a full town, he's not doing a big 500 stand development. Nobody is doing it. The farmer stays a farmer. They don't want to they still want to keep their farmland. So Correct. The way to do it is you would have a town planner. They would identify an area in the farm that is not used for farming. They would do the design for the stands. And you would send those plans off to the minister. They sign it off and say, okay, yes, you can subdivide it. And so what then happens is you have a land surveyor that would survey it, would become a diagram that gets registered in the Land Surveyor General's offices. And because of that, you can now create a mini township establishment for those 20 stands. And those 20 stands then become individual stands. Once that is done, once you've proclaimed it, they become individual stands, which means the farmer can now go and sell off individual stands into, example, your name. So you
Yep.
would have a buy-in, and you would buy a small little piece of that farm, but it's not actually the farmland you're selling. That piece of land is now changed its characteristic, and it would become residential one stands. So the zoning becomes residential. And because you've gone through a township establishment process, which the Minister of Agriculture has now approved, and because they approved it, the municipality automatically go, oh, they're happy, okay, we approve it as well, with the necessary ticks and balances with services and homeowners and those type of things. But then
Correct.
you actually do, it's a mini township establishment to get it to a point where you can transfer off those stands to individual buyers, and they will own it full title.
Yeah. And right now, for agricultural land, irrespective of whether it's productive or not, you can't actually sell off pieces of it at all unless you do this
No,
laborious thing that you just mentioned, which costs, I assume, hundreds of thousands or millions of rands and takes years to do. And it's just not worth it. So you actually have a lot of land lying around that is useless to the farmer, but also useless to everyone else. It's just lying fallow, not doing anything. Why not just tap it into it? It's what Herman de Soto, who is a economist, calls dead capital. It's only dead because
yes.
it doesn't have any characteristics of value. But if you can just change the nature of that piece of thing, the value is unlocked completely. And we have a lot of dead capital in this
Yeah.
country.
Currently, you can't do it because you won't get the approval from the minister. And the minister will not approve it because, well, there's not really a policy that would
Yeah.
guide the way that he would approve it. So all that John needs to do is create the policy, make sure they're happy with it. They can put in whatever they want to put in there, but get it to a point where it becomes not too onerous for the farmer to get to a point where they can unlock that value. And there you go. It's and it would cost nothing. And what we're talking about now is if he starts it today, within a year you would have people that would building houses, selling stands, and leave the farmers, the commercial farmers, to decide what they want to do with it. Do not you
Of
don't
course.
You're not the private sector. Don't tell them what they must do. They know their farm. They're still farming on it. They're not going to be irresponsible. Some of them might use it for tourism. Some of them might rent it out, or some of them might give it to their farm workers. But leave that
Mm.
option open to the farmer. The commercial farmers they're not stupid people. They understand what's going on, and they will act in the best interest of that area. And that's what you want. And now all of a sudden, you're going from zero value to, if you're doing R500,000 a stand, which is not, unreasonable, it's a lot of money. On 40 stands is 20 million rand,
Yeah.
which the farmer all of a sudden unlocks without doing much.
Yeah, correct. Just by asking permission. Yeah. I know. Now imagine you do that to tribal areas, right? Or the Ingonyama Trust or those things. I mean, that's a separate issue entirely, a lot more politically sensitive than agricultural land.
Yeah.
But it solves many things, including expropriation without compensation. It solves the problems that ANC says are problems. And their solutions always are, well, it is a problem. Like, we'll just take all the value and then we will solve the problem once we expropriate it. No bullshit. Like, you can just unlock the value and then people trade on whatever's unlocked. It's very simple. Happens all the time.
Well, we did a quick calculation in that there's 40,000 commercial farmers in the country. 10% of them are doing it, and they're doing, if I remember it correctly, 40 stands on a farm. And I mean, I'm not talking small farms. These are big farms. You can really cut off 20 hectares.
Yeah, easy.
The money that would flow into local municipalities, and this is rural municipalities, you're not doing this in Gauteng, it's rural municipalities, it would be close to R1 billion in taxes going into the municipalities every year if 10% of the farmers do it. So the numbers would be staggering. And I think the farmers would, I mean, the money is aside, just out of a safety point of view, you solve a lot of your farming safety issues as well. Um, so it's just, I think perhaps what it is viewing problems a bit differently and saying, well, let's get to a solution that's not costing the state any money, because currently, if they're looking for a solution, they invite everybody from a national dialogue, and they freaking cost 2 billion rand or something stupid, and it doesn't help anything. This would cost nothing.
Well, that's why it won't work. That's why it won't work, Maurice, because it costs nothing.
Oh shit!
Right? Like solving,
No,
like solving real crime, like like solving crime in South Africa, right? The simplest solution is to allow the private security sector to have powers of the police to a certain point. Simple. There's 600,000 security officers who can't arrest people, right? Who can't. They can maybe detain them, but they can't shoot them, God forbid, unless it's in self-defense. If you just have the ability for the security guard to have the powers of the police to stop and search and to arrest, and then that's where the power ends. Perfect. I mean, we can solve crime tomorrow so simply, but they just don't have the power to do that.
I foresee a big bottleneck in the jails, because I don't know where you're going to put all those people. If Fidelity and the guys start arresting people, that you're going to run out of jail space very quickly, because it's going to work. They will arrest the people
easily. We get the biggest farmer in Graaff-Reinet, who I know. He's got hundreds of thousands of hectares. We say, listen, we will subdivide your land. We will buy 100 hectares and we'll build a maximum security jail that can host like 10 million people in it. Why not? There you go. You can see. So the solutions flow into each other. They solve each other's problems.
Well, yes, as we're going along, that now you're telling that farmer, we are bringing a hell of a lot of young individuals that is quite capable of working to your farm. Now you've got free labor if you're running the jail.
There we go.
But that seems like slave labor.
Nothing wrong with that. Slave labor is immoral unless you fail to uphold the standards of society. Then you have to pay it back in some way. There must be penance or repentance, and that's what you do. It happens to every civilized country in the world, and has happened for thousands of years. Prisoners are not meant to sit in prison watching TikTok videos all day. I think it's ridiculous.
No,
they should go out and work. I mean, then we have an employment crisis, but anyway, that's a separate issue entirely. But maybe you were expecting a lot more pushback from me, Marius, but for now, not really. Solution. I love solutions like everyone else, especially clever solutions like the one you're proposing. I'm just so cynical after my stint in the government that these solutions, you can propose them till you're blue in the face. If they don't cost money or they don't benefit anyone, they're just not going to be implemented. That's the sadness of it.
Well, yeah, I think it would be quite interesting actually to hear, for example, John Steenhuisen's opinion on those two aspects, because he would be critical in both of them. And it doesn't, it would be really interesting to see what's the response. Why would it not work? So maybe that's a challenge to him.
Yeah, maybe I'll send him a WhatsApp. Maybe he'll answer me this time. Then I can report back to you.
Well, I can't send him a WhatsApp, so it's on you, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason why it won't happen is that just from personal experience, the department and the minister never get along. So they sort of sabotage each other. And when you have a minister who doesn't know anything about the portfolio that he's running, the department runs everything. And the department relies on antiquated software culture that is like, oh, farmers are bad and evil and enslave people for years and years. And therefore, they're never going to propose anything that actually solves a problem. And then certainly not propose it all the way to the minister, who's at the top of the pile. So that's why the solutions you're proposing are very good. But in practice, the department and the minister are not there to solve problems. They're there to entrench political power.
Yeah, fair enough. And I do agree with that. They are political appointments. And so they will do whatever they need to do to, politically also, you toe the line, otherwise you're out.
Yeah.
That I agree with. I think the challenge would be is that and perhaps here it lies with the GNU, the politically you do have a bit more of a chance than you had before the GNU, I would imagine, um, to perhaps get
Actually,
at least a discussion going on these type of suggestions.
I think you'll be a bit surprised. When I spoke to the agricultural industry, they found Toko Didiza, who was the previous minister of agriculture before she became speaker. They found her very receptive to their ideas in terms of helping, exports and market access and
Mm,
if whatever vaccinations. But in actual fact, the minister can agree with you, and John, for example, agrees with everyone who says anything. But the ability for the minister's office to actually effect it is very difficult unless you're ruthless. But you can't be ruthless because you have to toe the line of the cabinet.
mm.
So, I mean, that's the sort of Mexican standoff in all of this. So the minister has immense power, but if he uses it, he's out of a job because the department will complain to the president that this minister is not following the line of the executive on various things.
Mm.
So you end up with sand in the gears all the time. So it's not a question of ability, it's a question of functionally the system, the bureaucracy makes it impossible.
Yeah, well, that makes it for quite a negative podcast. I think on a whole, um, South Africans are quite positive, but it's
Yes.
these type of things that would go like, the solutions are almost there. What if the problem is the bureaucracy around it? Where do we go to? What's the solution to that?
Helicopters and lampposts. Well, you have to fire them, right? I mean, you have to
Mm,
make them redundant. And then when they try to burn down the building, you have to shoot them and say, this is authority, this is leadership, this is what we're going to do. You fit in. If you don't, you fuck
mm.
off. And if you want to come back and burn shit down, we're going to shoot you in the head. That's the one way to solve it. Another way to solve it is to have endless negotiations about retrenchment packages, right? Then the unions come on board, and then it's just a nightmare. It's much easier to make a decision and then defend it with violence afterwards. And that's not negative. That's
I
a
think for the
positive.
record, we must make sure you don't run the security industry that arrests the people from the private sector, because maybe
Yeah, God
on that
forbid.
attitude we might not need a big jail.
Yeah, I mean, God forbid, we might actually solve crime. Which I think is the point, right?
Fair enough.
I mean, how dare we use tried and tested methods that have been used in every other country in the world to solve a major problem in our country? I mean, how dare us? Sometimes you just have to take
Mm.
away 5 to 10% of the population, right? Crime is committed by the same people over and over again, of every race, of every creed, of every background. There are some people that are just mentally deficient, right, or socially
Yeah, well,
deficient, and we must take those out of society.
well, I think the problem with South Africa is there's too many human rights and too few human responsibilities.
There we
Um,
go. That's how you start, right?
rights. Hmm?
That's how you start, Marius. She's like, human rights are great, but where's the responsibility? Then you're like, actually, human rights are detrimental because they prevent us from actually doing good stuff. So don't worry, you'll be like me in a year, Marius. Once you start with that argument.
Well, I haven't had my stint in the department, so I don't think I'm as jaded as you.
So I'm not jaded. I just seen how the process works, and unless you have a ruthless, authoritative leader, nothing's going to change, irrespective of who's in power. And that's just the God honest truth.
So
That's not
maybe here's a
jaded. That's just
question to
realistic.
you.
Yes, go ahead.
Maybe you, uh, because if you look at the DA and whether you like the DA or not, they are the major opposition at this point. And you have two characters, John and Ellen. Um,
Mhm.
one, there would be people that argue Ellen is quite ruthless and to the point, and much more than John. Um, would a suggestion like this agriculture subdivision one not actually put him in a position to say, okay, well, maybe this is my opportunity to become a bit more ruthless, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of people need it or want it. The fact that Helen has got a very good shot in Joburg is not because she's this lovely old lady that is going to, bring everybody pies she baked. It is because she's going to turn around. She's going to fire people. She's going to be ruthless. And the people actually would vote for that. And I think maybe that's the challenge that the rest of the DA must start looking at and go, well, you can carry on being nice, but at one point, I think the voters is just getting heart full of it.
And we can see it every day, right? We can see it in TikTok videos and X videos where criminals in townships get like burnt alive at the stake because they stole someone's wallet or murdered their girlfriend or whatever the case might be. South Africans, and I include every single South African, including the ones in government right now, are begging for leadership from somewhere.
Yep.
And they're just not getting it. Right. And then this is misconstrued as, oh, leadership is sort of giving people stuff. No. That's managerial. That's being a manager. Right. If you're a manager of a bank branch at ABSA, the difference between a manager at a bank branch at ABSA and John Steenhuisen is that the manager of a bank branch has a degree. But it's the same thinking. It's exactly the same thinking. The difference
that was a low blow, I would guess.
No, but it's true. It's true. The fact that he doesn't have a degree is why I signed up, because he hasn't been inculcated with the bullshit. But unfortunately, that wasn't true. But if everybody's crying for leadership and the best you can do is, let's have a fucking national dialogue, that's not leadership. That's kicking the can down the road, and that's managerialism. So unless one of these parties, whether it be Corné Mulder or Cato McKenzie or the DA, whoever can demonstrate that they have the leadership capabilities and the ruthlessness needed to effect real change, those are the ones that are actually going to win. And for now, it's Cato McKenzie at the moment, who I know personally, and I have vast reservations about him, but he's the only one who actually understands power in this country at a political level. He uses the K word. He's a gangster. He went to prison. He stole and killed people, and yet he still becomes a minister. I say the word Bantu and X 10 years ago, and I'm fired. Right? Because I had no other choice. But he's the only one who understands power. And if that's the case, he's the one who's going to win in time to come.
Well, I think going forward, that's a secret sauce. You can't make a omelet without cracking some eggs, and
sure.
The pure fact that if they look at the polling and Helen is looking in pole position, I mean, this is a old, and she's old, white lady going into Joburg and look likely to win. You must ask the question, how can that be? I mean, surely there must be young guys that's got an energy that can make this work. And the only reason would be that she wouldn't be afraid to take action, and you're going to have to piss off some people to make it work. And
sure.
The question is, why is none of the other leaders actually, you're not a braaibroodjie. You can't freaking make everyone happy.
Now you dressed up like
take a stand.
Yeah, of course. Of course, Boris. I assume you've run a business. I assume that you've been working for all of your life. I assume you made big projects or you've done stuff. And, you have the vision and you need the ruthlessness to execute the vision, irrespective of what other people think. My company is not a fucking democracy. My house is not a democracy. Whatever I control is not a democracy. I'm the leader. I'm the fascist. I'll make shit happen. Right? I'm sure you have had that exact same scenario in whatever businesses you have been running. But the janitor doesn't come to your office as a CEO and say, oh, by the way, I think we should implement this. Like, no, fuck off, you're a janitor. I don't care. You paid a salary to do your job and do your job. It's not a democracy here. But the government is like, everyone's a democracy, right? It's like, including the security guard at the front. What does he have to say? No one cares what the security guard has to say. Tell him to do his fucking job, and that's it.
I guess it's easier said than done, but it's not so difficult to actually. I mean, there's things that can be done quite easily, and at a large extent, and that would be the challenges. the two solutions that we've discussed now, yes, the BE one, you're going to step on toes. Fine. I do understand that because the cadres will stop eating. But to a large extent, there's no negatives to it. You still have race, you still have a transformation fund, all of that. On the agriculture one, there's absolutely nobody that can be against it. The question is, you need somebody with a bit of a backbone and look outside of the box. And because it feels like the politicians, their only tool would be a hammer. So everything looks like nails. So it's the same solution over and over and over, and none of it working. So I think, it would be nice for somebody to shake it up a bit.
Yeah, and I think that the flaw of South Africa post 1994 was actually sort of the TRC and CODESA, where great things happened because we negotiated our way out of it. I think it's all bullshit. It was a complete psyop. The ANC got their way because they were killing each other throughout. Whenever they didn't get their way at CODESA, they went to go kill the IFP. They did the Shell House massacre. They bombed stuff. They killed the black opposition. And when the riot became too much, the NP came back to the table. Okay, come, let's talk some more. And that's how CODESA happened. And the TRC as well. It's like, okay, let's come together. Let's cry. Let's whatever. No, punish people who committed the crimes. Right?
So actually, I've got a different opinion to you on that one. Especially on the TRC is I've done quite a lot of reading on Ubuntu. Ubuntu, the
software.
No, not the software. That I know nothing about.
That actually works.
But it's a community, and I am, because we are. And Ubuntu also plays very heavily on forgiveness. So you're part of you're part of the family, you're part of the community. There's forgiveness as part of it, and not so much punishment, but retribution. And that's all morally excellent theories, and the TRC worked very well into that. So if you look at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, it very much echoed the principles of Ubuntu. They speak about it. Desmond Tutu spoke about it a lot. This motion, the notion of forgiveness and retribution, and that's why they would forgive the perpetrators. That's why they offered financial compensation to the victims. The problem with the TRC and that Ubuntu, not the problem, but the fact is that philosophy carried into the ANC, and it was part of the ANC from the beginning, from the time they adopted the Freedom Charter. It was in there, and it is very much part of them, and it's morally correct. You can't fault it, but the unintended consequence of it is that if you now sit in a situation where you have people that should be fired, people that are stealing money that should go to jail, cadres that is just looting at the Mbisa hospital, the culture of forgiveness and having another chance of being redeployed, so just as that theory helped us get through 94 without too much bloodshed, is now getting and shooting us a bit in the foot by giving people a way out, saying that I'm part of the community, I just get deployed, and there's not a strict the discipline is not there.
There's no punishment. Yeah, I mean that's why
there's no punishment.
But Ubuntu is a piece of shit ideology. If you read it carefully, it is. If you read it very, very carefully, it's whites are not people. Ubuntu only applies to blacks, and blacks have this hyper connectivity to each other where we can sort out our problems through community, which means that you never punish the perpetrators, which means that there's always an excuse for behavior, and essentially everyone outside the community is not a real human being, so you can't give Ubuntu to them. So in my opinion, Marius, Ubuntu is a piece of shit and is one of the biggest fake psyops we've had in South Africa since 1994. It doesn't exist. It's just a way to make people try to immigrate, especially white people, between you and I. And then it justifies all the treasonous things the ANC has done. And I'm not jaded. I'm not. This is just reality. I'm not cynical. I live here. I love living here. My family lives here. I'll be here till hopefully the day I die. But this is just the reality of what we're living in South Africa. There's no like hardcore gut liberal rationalists out there that want to make the world a better place. No, people are fickle, people are selfish, and people just need some sort of incentive. And the incentive always was, it will give you. Okay, that's the end of that. Right now the incentive is, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to fucking murder you. Maybe we should just change the incentive structure.
Well, I don't know if we're going to get to we can say it. I don't know if you're going to get to a point where you can implement that at any place except your house. It's
Marius, my black brothers will be with me right there, murdering everyone with me. They already do it in the townships. It's called community justice or whatever you call it. People are already doing it. Yeah, people are already doing it. So, at the white libs who are like, oh no, the Constitution and human rights, fuck those people. Move to America. Or no, actually don't. Move to Australia. Like, those people deserve to go.
America's got their own issues at this point in time.
So there is a question from the chat, if I may. Someone wants to know, what advice and guidance do you have to young people in South Africa, knowing how big the changes are that will be coming down the pipeline? If you were 20 years old right now, what would you want your father to tell you? Please don't say Ubuntu.
No, that's not my culture. So I cannot say Ubuntu.
Right.
I think, and it is difficult because it's expensive to a large extent, but education is the way to go. So even if you have to, I paid for my own education, work during the day, study at night. But education is definitely it's an investment in yourself that nobody can take away. So I think try and get as educated as you can. And a lot of education would not end up in a piece of paper. Of course, to have apply for a job, it works if somebody could say, oh, okay, no, this person did this degree and they know it. And so, of course, that helps. But a lot of education is also just reading, listening to podcasts and thinking. So I think the advice I would say is think for yourself. Think. Learn to think.
Then you become cynical like me. Sometimes I wonder, sorry to interrupt. Sometimes I wonder if it wasn't better if I got a degree in finance and worked at Absa Bank in personal wealth and made 3 million rand a year. I wonder if my life would be better. I think in some ways it would be.
It would be boring as shit.
I know, but I wouldn't know it's boring.
Sorry, Absa. I nothing against Absa, but
no, just bankers in general, boring people. I agree.
Yeah. Look, and I'm financial. I come from a financial background.
Right.
But I think education is the way to go, and especially in today's day and age, with the AI developments and the technology moving as fast as it's currently moving. I'm accountant. I don't know if you will need accountants in 5 years' time. I think the machines can do it much better than us. So it is a difficult time to be a young person, actually. The cost of living is expensive, and
our parents ruined us. The boomers ruined everything by buying houses with a pallet of blueberries and then telling us not to buy soy lattes. Then we'll be able to afford a house. It just doesn't work that way anymore.
It's tough. But if you're 20, educate and don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, I think we're on the cusp of a major economic revolution in terms of the personal ability of people to actually make cash to a degree that wasn't possible at any single time in history right now. Using AI, becoming your own brand, becoming really good at something, I think it's one of the greatest times to be alive. So hopefully that dissuades you from my cynicism, Marius. I think as a 20-year-old, I wouldn't actually go to university unless you want to be a doctor, unless you want to be a real engineer or something like that. Like if you can just not scroll TikTok, or you scroll TikTok, the Chinese version, which is like where they do like large scale infrastructure projects, and they talk about pride, and they talk about all sorts of things that actually do help society and actually do help nation states and do help families. Just focus on yourself, find a good wife or a good husband, or yeah, those are the only two we will discuss. This is a very binary show. and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and like just focus on creating value for the world. And I think there's so much value to be created right now, to a degree where people my age are actually like a bit jealous. Though I'm not out of the woods yet, I can still partake in it.
Yeah, no, there are opportunities. There's many opportunities, and right, like a couple of years ago, and not so long ago, the knowledge actually had value. If
Yeah,
you had a lot of knowledge or a lot of data, you that had value. With the whole AI, knowledge now became free.
exactly.
There's no value in knowing something. Everyone knows it. If you've got a smartphone, you have got all the knowledge that you would need. You can, it can explain how to launch rockets. So the question I think now becomes, and it maybe flows back to the education one, is how do you apply that knowledge? How do you
Correct.
use the knowledge that's available and create something with that? And I think that is much more difficult to teach. The current education system was established bloody 200 years ago. They just needed you to
Yep.
read and write enough so you could work in a factory.
Yep.
And the whole model was built around that. Those days are gone. And so I think one of the industries actually that will have a complete overall will be the education industry, the whole, because it actually doesn't work currently,
Correct.
or it doesn't.
Yeah,
It's
correct.
not fit for purpose.
Like I know, and I've put this down as a cost that educating my children in primary school is glorified daycare. And I'm paying lots of money every year for glorified daycare. And it's fine. I know that's the equation at hand, but I'm not expecting them to go in there and come back and tell me like things that I don't know, or whatever the case might be. It's glorified daycare. Let them have friends. Let them do activities that we can't generally do, like whatever, water polo, whatever the case might be. Build a little community. Like that's what education is and should be at a young age. But I think once they go to high school, I don't foresee a reason for them to go to a school. I can see AI tutors. I can see sort of sports groups made organically in the community. I can see sports clubs being created. I can see cultural clubs being created for children. I think the market for businesses in the children's sector that involves educational, that involves keeping kids busy or community building is huge. I think I see great potential there for a lot of businesses going forward.
Yeah, look, you're going to have to start looking or thinking out of the box. I think I'm not quite on the wicket of saying on high school it's all out of the school environment. I think there's good things about the school environment, especially if you
Certainly.
get a good school.
Yeah.
It does. The challenge I think lies within the schools, and having a teacher that cannot adapt to the new would be very detrimental. But for the same argument, is if you get the right teacher that would, and I think did you speak to a teacher at one point that was using a lot of
Correct.
AI, and I remember something like that. Um, I think that would actually create a lot more benefit for the child uh, than AI teaching it, and not to this AIs as a studying method. My daughter is now grade 11. She uses ChatGPT extensively to study. It teaches chemistry and physics, and she's on that AI a lot studying wise. So you must incorporate it. But I think there's also something to be said about the school environment. But it's a tricky time, and not always sure where it's going to end up.
Yeah, yeah. So I think AI can replace most sort of routine education. Like if you need to know something, go to AI. You don't need someone to tell you. But
Mm.
a physical person can be very useful in terms of developing social skills, or developing speaking skills, or developing, skills that are relevant in the real world. So that's what I'm going to do in the meantime. So just two quick comments before we leave, Marius. We've been here for a long time. I don't want to waste your time, let alone anyone else's. Wild6570 says AI doesn't matter that much. Winners will always win and losers will always lose. And I think to a large extent, I fully agree. Small example: the food stamps in America, they were going to be cut, and then all these people say they're starving, but they weigh 300 kilograms. And what we're finding out, and what people are finding out, especially about American poverty, is that it's actually a mindset more than an ability to
Yeah.
generate value. Like people are poor not because they don't have money. People are poor because they have terrible habits, right? Terrible
Mm.
money
It's a
habits,
culture.
terrible eating habits. That's a
Mm.
culture.
It's a
So for
culture.
AI, it's a tool. If you use AI to provide value, it will be extremely valuable. If you use AI to generate porn, that's extremely unvaluable. It's how you use the tool that matters.
Yeah, winners will always win and losers will always lose. I think with the AI, for example, on legal work, you will have an advocate or a lawyer that's very good. The only thing
Yeah,
that will happen now is they will become better and they will do more and more work and a
they
lot
will just
quicker.
review the
And
work
the
rather than
guys
do
that,
it.
you know, and the rest of the advocates or lawyers that sort of live on the overflow of work from the good lawyer, the very
Yeah,
good ones. Those guys are going to suffer because the overflow will become less and less and less. Because if you're using the AI correctly, you could do a lot more and you could do it a lot faster. So it's not like all of a sudden lawyers will disappear and accountants will disappear. Those they will not disappear. What will disappear would actually be the guys that's on the overflow, the fringes, the guys that's, they're doing enough and
the ones who
they're
aren't
not,
good.
they,
Yeah,
the guys
and that's what we want.
that
And that's what we want as a society, I would think, right? We want the freeloaders and the hangers on and the mediocre to not thrive until they become good, right?
well, yeah. And
Yeah,
out of an
there we go.
economic point of view, that's exactly what you want. If if I can produce a pencil cheaper and better than you, well, then it's better for the entire society if I'm the one producing pencils. But we can't, and that's what AI I think will do. I think the scary part of it is I don't know where South Africa lies in that winner and losers part because yeah, the rest of the world I think is pulling us, and I can't see us catching up quickly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. So let's end off with one of the best comments I've ever seen. John Jarvis, who's a big fan, he says he's so happy he's out of the working environment. Back in his day, the model was work your ass off, accumulate lots of money, and then sit drinking beer and smoking cigarettes while watching lunchtime podcasts. I fully agree. One day I will get there, John. Not by doing podcasts, though. There's no money in it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Marius, what an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thank you.
No, I enjoyed it. At least we threw some ideas around, and maybe something comes from it, and maybe not. But it was a fun hour.
It was really fun, which is the majority of the time. That's why I do these things, because they tend to be quite fun. Because, as I keep saying, the average ordinary person that I speak to on this show is far more interesting than any of the big guests from political parties that I've been speaking to for the last 10 years. Like, just the depth of knowledge and thinking out of the box is way, way more. And until the political parties upgrade their software, they'll always be behind.
Well, I've got to keep you to the WhatsApp to John. Let's see if something happens.
Let's see if he responds. All right. Everyone else,
Okay.
for those watching, thank you so much as always. I'm glad to have you here, and thank you for posing interesting questions and keeping us entertained in the comments. I'll see you all tomorrow at the same time, same place for another episode rather of the Ordinary People podcast. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Bye.